So I had a chiropractor totally change my life at 15 years old. I took a massive hit on the helmet playing high school football, and I ended up with a cervical herniation. And our team doctor,
14, 15 years old or
yeah,
something?
15 years old, and this kid that hit me, I swear to God, 280 pounds, big boy. And I'm
Just
at 15 years
he
old.
ain't
I'm
natty, bro.
145 pounds. Like this is a big boy.
Yeah.
So
Stand up.
our team doctor is an orthopedic surgeon, and that's what he does, is orthopedic surgery. So they get me in for a scan, and he says, this doesn't look good. You're probably not going to play any contact sports again, and we need to cut you open ASAP to fix this.
Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast. What up, bro?
What's going on, man? Living full field over here.
Life is good. Today's been a
up,
good
bro?
day. Got my boy Jacob in the seat here, in the hot seat. No, it's
Thanks for having me, guys.
man, it's good
Really
to have you.
excited to be
So
here.
I'm gonna highlight you a little bit here for everyone listening. Jake went to University of Iowa, was a cheerleader there, high performer. He's been practicing electrons plus therapy for 5 years. I'm gonna have him obviously tell you guys more about what this is, but we are excited to have this man. He did a therapy on us the other night that was
Next
level. It was freaking awesome.
Next level.
I've had massages before. I've had sports massages. Playing collegiate level sports. Nothing like this.
But we don't want to sell him short because he's GOTA certified and NASM certified at the same time.
NASM certified trainer. So this guy's got that. And what NASM teaches you, man, is that head knowledge of how the muscles and everything biomechanically are. When he was spouting out muscles, I was like, man, I need to brush up, dude. I'm a chiropractor, and he's dropping something. I'm like, I need to tighten up a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you here, Jake.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man.
You live in full field, Jake?
100%.
That's what I'm
yeah,
talking
we're definitely
about,
walking
bro.
the path.
Yeah, man. He was kind of digging in his story a little bit. So, man, as we get started here, kind of tell us a little bit about your background. Where you came from, where you started, how you got into this. You said you were looking at chiropractic school. You went a different route. I have a similar story. I was enrolled in PT school, and I just bailed on that and went chiro. So, tell us kind of the background here, bro.
So I had a chiropractor totally change my life at 15 years old. I took a massive hit on the helmet playing high school football, and I ended up with a cervical herniation. And our team doctor,
14, 15 years old or something?
15 years old. Damn. And this kid that hit me, I swear to God, 280 pounds.
Just a unit.
Big boy. And I'm
Just
at 15 years
he
old,
ain't
I'm
natty, bro.
I'm 145 pounds. Like this is a big boy.
Yeah.
So
stand up.
our team doctor is an orthopedic surgeon, and that's what he does, is orthopedic surgery. So they get me in for a scan, and he says, this doesn't look good. You're probably not going to play any contact sports again, and we need to cut you open ASAP to fix this.
That's a brutal thing to hear at 15, bro. And your parents probably freaking out. Like,
We're lower middle class. Like we already had bills at that point anyway.
Yeah.
My parents said, we need a second opinion.
Nice.
So we went and got a second opinion. Top-rated chiropractor in Ankeny, where I'm originally from. This guy took wonderful care of me. I was back out playing football 5 weeks later.
Dang.
My man. I love
it
that.
was serious. So that set me on my path, and I was like,
Yeah.
I said to myself at 15 years old, this is what I'm going to be able to do for other people, because I can't believe how I feel, and the news that we were able to just turn on its head.
Wow.
One person said I was done playing sports and I needed surgery, and another person said, not so fast.
Yeah.
So I did all the prereqs at college. I knew I wanted to be able to speak Spanish, so I got a bachelor's degree in Spanish. All the prereqs were done. Did a couple school visits, and it didn't feel right in here. So I took a step back, continued working in the restaurants. I was spinning my wheels a little bit, trying to figure out where to take my passion and my ability to help people, because from a young age, I was always kind of intuitive about bodies. I knew how to help someone with a shoulder that was bugging them, and I had no real training on it at the time. So fast forward another 6-7 years, I got my personal training certification. I knew that I wanted to maybe help people from the other side of the table, so to speak, and help them with their posture or their training or their nutrition, because those things are so important in building a healthy body that's resilient.
Yeah.
And I knew that. The chiropractor, Aaron Martin, he would tell me that all the time. He said, make sure you're training, make sure you're stretching, do your stuff. Stay on top of your posture. So I went into personal training, and it was good, but it wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
The standard certification, it wasn't giving exercise correction. And thankfully my own story with pain was kind of what led me into this certification called GOTA, Greatest of All Time Actions.
That's a cool ass acronym, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to?
I just learned about this the other day.
It's not Gouda. It's not Gouda. It's GOTA.
Smoked GOTA.
Smoke GOTA, baby. Tell us about it, though, because it's really cool. Because MJ, Michael Phelps, I mean, you're naming some of the highest level athletes on planet Earth. Tom Brady, on how they train to put themselves in the 1% of the 1%.
So I want to backtrack that just a touch because we're not necessarily saying people like Michael Jordan or Roger Federer or Simone Biles are training with this idea in mind. It's that they have this innate ability to move with fluidity and not get hurt for no reason at all. So this was all an observation, right? There was a gentleman named Jose Bosch in New Orleans who was dealing with 3 levels of degeneration and was trying to do triathlete stuff and was trying to do his CrossFit stuff, and he could barely get off the couch. So while he was going through all of these schools of thought, your Kelly Starrett's, your Pete Egoscue's, he's watching on the iPad and scrubbing the film, saying, why does my run not look like MJ's? And he started observing that some athletes land in a particular fashion and some athletes push off the ground in a particular fashion, and these durable ones, they move a little bit differently. That was kind of the birth of GOTA about 10, 12 years ago now.
So you kind of found like a common thing that they all were doing. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's
this guy's a researcher,
He's outside the box for sure. He's kind of one of those industry disruptors.
Cool. I love those guys. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Explain it in a little bit more detail. Is it like, a heel strike versus, top of the foot strike? Like when they run, is it that they are at maybe a slight degree 45 when they're running a little bit ahead? Like,
right.
Is it the intrinsics? What is that?
So the big things that we're looking for within this system is within the assessment, we're looking at the way someone squats, the way someone hinges and reaches for the floor, what kind of flexibility do they have? And then when they walk and run, do we see pronation? Because we're going to see that pronation in the squat too. We're going to see that pronation in the standing posture.
It's going to be exacerbated, right? Yeah.
100%, sure. Especially if you're running.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tenets right there.
Okay.
It's the biggest piece of the puzzle. It's our foundation. It's how do we manage that foot and ankle?
Yeah.
But then, if not more importantly, where do our hips live in space? Because if we are stuck forward and those hips are too far thrust forward, we lose the rotational capacity of that pelvis.
Yeah.
So we're looking at those 2 main items among a few others, right? We've got 3 main principles and then 7 fundamentals that all feed into GOTA. The foot posture and where the hips live in space are such a huge piece of the puzzle.
Those are the
in
big ones.
Getting people out of pain, helping them perform at a higher level.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the foot, obviously, that's the first thing contacting the ground in anything, right? Mm-hmm. Not just sports. Yeah. And then the hips is where you're able to leverage power from the lower body to the upper body.
Yeah.
Golf, tennis, lacrosse, whatever sport, even basketball, right? Like you propel through the lower body, it has to transfer through those hips to the upper body for you to be able to do that activity. If you lose that somewhere or if that's not functioning efficiently, right? So a lot of what I do is also like realigning hips and more in like a structural foundation. So the GOTA is more of a diagnostic tool, and then is there like a therapeutic aspect to it? Or 100%. That's more so what you do with the Electrons Plus. Talk a little bit about that, and you can take a sip if you need, bro.
So they definitely work hand in hand, right? The assessment process tells us where we're weak. The assessment tells us where our lowest hanging fruit is. So if we've got a foot and ankle that collapse quite a bit, or we need to coordinate the ankle and the hip better as a corkscrew, right? We need to synchronize those 2 joints to keep the foot and ankle safe. We're going to spend a lot of time doing things like wall sits with really particular foot posture, and we're going to spend a lot of time doing things like crawling like a child, because that's really where we start the development of these motor patterns. And a lot of folks lose them based on the footwear they're wearing, or maybe even the way they were brought up. You probably look at these 2 boys you got, and you're seeing their development. You're probably learning things from them too, because they're so brilliant in the way that they move when they're young.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're not adulterated by stiff tennis shoes and little bouncy chairs, and
Yeah.
people.
Being barefoot's so important. It's funny you say that because I have a video. I'm like filming them as they're running back and forth in the house. I was like, this is hilarious. I'm just gonna film it, and I like slowed it down to watch. Bro, like they move differently, even though they're identical twins. Leo's got a little bit more weight on his frame. He's a little heavier. Enzo's like a little bullet. He comes around the corner leaning. I'm like, all right, what 2-year-old can like lean into a run like that? His feet and everything are moving well, and then Leo comes around. He's a little less. He's a little more upright, and his feet were pronating a lot, and I could see the difference. And it's crazy. I mean, I try to let them be barefoot as much as possible because I think shoes mess my feet up, man.
Yeah.
I was in shoes since I was a kid, real narrow freaking Nikes. My toes were all jammed together, and like I have had ankles problems growing up all the time.
I'm gonna say it right now. I'm kicking the shoe off. If your shoe cannot do this, if you can't bend, twist your shoe,
oh, the flux wins, dude.
you got a problem.
You ain't flexing those freaking Nikes right
You
now,
got
bro.
if you got stiff shoes, your feet are not working. I like to call those foot coffins.
Yeah, they do the work. They're doing the work for your foot,
Yeah.
man. It's gonna like.
It's crazy how much recent technology has come out. I think actually for the guy from Primal has actually loaded some scientific research kind of behind the formation of a child's foot on how like impacting restricted their foot, like in the growth pattern of how they need to, from a primal perspective of just like growth and the proper webbing in between them.
Yeah.
And like an aged woman, because like you always see those like really old grandmas, right? And they're freaking like their baby toe is like kind of like into the middle of their foot. I'm like, what the frick happened there?
Yeah.
Like, just right, yeah. Dude,
That's
something's wrong with your feet,
Yeah.
grandma.
Yeah.
Like such nasty stuff. But that's like an impact of
It's
like
all the shoes.
fashion over function, right? Where like
much fashion
you have those
over
high
function.
heels that are just wedging that friggin' toe in.
Yep.
And they're so
I'm waiting for a
much
basketball shoe, bro.
osteoporosis.
A basketball shoe with a wide toe box. I don't think I
They're
haven't found
coming.
one.
They're coming.
It's gotta come,
they're,
dude.
They're
We
getting
need
really
that.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine-
They're also narrow. My
mine have a
toes
little bit
kill me
wider.
after.
I think
I
the
know.
probably your best option is some of the older Kobe's.
Yeah.
I think that's
Okay.
one of the only ones that's
Oh,
got a
man.
little flexibility to
We're going
it.
down memory lane. Remember the moon shoes with Kobe? You ever saw the moon shoes with Kobe? I had those
You guys
back
are
in the
older than
day.
me,
They
yeah.
were ridiculous. They
We're
came
talking
out
about
again.
the ones that had like the big base on the front, but there was no heel on it.
They're
Oh,
made
the
they're
calf
made by
trainers.
Adidas.
Those
Yeah.
are cool.
They're made
They're
by
like
Adidas.
weighted, I
They're
think.
all
Double
white.
your vert.
Yeah.
They're friggin'
Tear your
like they're
Achilles.
all white. Those are it right there.
Those are the ones.
Austin's got us.
yeah.
Look at that.
That looks
Those-
like a car. Looks like a freaking
Ridiculous.
hearse.
It's got a wide toed box.
Okay.
No, anyways,
That's a pretty quick draw, like young
Yeah.
Jamie.
Oh yeah, he's on the trigger here.
he's got
Love
it.
it.
Man.
Love that.
But we were talking a little bit earlier before we got interrupted by a blowing horn. Was Ben Patrick. So Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy. I think he's grown his audience. Like, dude, when I was like started following him, I thought he was like maybe 100, 200,000. He's
Yeah.
well over 1 million at this
Yeah,
point.
he's popular.
You were saying, tell us a little bit about him because you went through his program. I think you were with some knee pain, or not with some knee pain. You were going after something else. But talk a little bit about that.
So my major struggle through my journey with pain was always lumbar spine. That was the thing that I actually never really sorted out until I figured out where my hips needed to live in space. So I was getting frustrated with the GOTA program, to be honest with you. There's this neurological recoding, like neuroplastic change that needs to take place. In that time period, I got so frustrated that I wasn't seeing results quickly enough that I actually just set the whole thing aside and I started training Ben's program. Because I was walking by his gym, ATG, down in Clearwater,
Yeah,
like
it's right here.
on a regular basis. I would see them like outside filming and guys coming and going. I was like, this is interesting. And then I connected the dots because he was starting to get a little traction on Instagram at the time. So I started following the program and it was interesting. You know, it was more what I was used to, doing some body weight, you know, really big emphasis on stretching and finding that range of motion. But then, you know, it was a lot of barbells and step ups and things like that, the Poliquin kind of protocol. It was cool, but ultimately it didn't get me out of pain because his focus at the time was still very much knees. You know,
Yeah.
he brought in Jeffrey Wolf, which was a really good add to the program. He was doing range of strength, you know, working on the strength with flexibility, which was really cool, and it seemed to help a lot of people. But ultimately, I didn't get out of pain, and there were a couple times where I actually made my pain worse while I was doing that program. But as far as knees go, I didn't have issues at that time, but I know that program's been tremendous for a lot of people with knee issues.
I mean, I've used it. I can't say I've ever gone through the full program, but I've seen enough of what he does, and then plus what I do to kind of blend stuff together. Like I just made a post the other day about basically how I healed patella tendonitis in like a matter of a month was through some of those reverse sled pulls. I started with reverse treadmills, then got up to reverse sled pulls. Obviously, I hit that thing with the soft wave like a freaking gangbuster. I was doing that like every single day, maybe too much, but
Use it if you got it.
that's right. I paid for that thing. So between those two different things, though, definitely beneficial for me. And I think he's helped a lot of people. I think that guy hit it with, he helps a lot of people, and the program is valid. And he went after something that was like, never let your knees go over your toes, right?
Yeah.
That's what I grew up as, like my freaking PE coach who doesn't even have a freaking clue about exercise form telling me not to let my knees go over my toes, right? This gym coach guy, right? So it's like he kind of changed the game there, which was smart, great marketing, great freaking way to blow yourself up. And it is valid, and it helps and works. So,
and that's the one thing that we see so much in the sports performance world. A lot of our weight room training, it's based on Olympic lifting protocol. Not that that's necessarily something that's going to contribute to the athlete's durability or performance on the field all the time.
it's old school, right? I mean,
It's old school.
Yeah.
We're definitely moving towards the single leg stuff and building flexibility, building range of motion, and not necessarily worrying about the PR, because the PR isn't what's going to keep us on the field. The best ability is availability.
Yeah. I mean, there are guys like Saquon Barkley.
Fire.
Dude's just a dog in the gym. Like, he can squat freaking weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Jalen Hurts.
that's beneficial. That's going to help you.
Yeah.
But, dude, you got to be able to move laterally, right?
Yep.
So, like, you have to be able to cut. So, like, he obviously does more than that, right?
Oh, yeah. He's
had
out
some
on the field
injuries too,
just
right?
as much, if not more, than he is in that weight room, I'm sure.
That's right. Like, and that's the blend of the flexibility and the strength, kind of like what you were alluding to. It's like, I think the ideal athlete is able to get to be strong through full ranges of motion without compromise, right?
Yeah.
Say that's a pretty good definition.
Yeah, full range of motion is key.
Yeah.
That type of flexibility. I think it like Jalen Hurts too, because Jalen Hurts is that dude that, I mean, for a quarterback, you have to be mobile. You have to have a lot of full range of motion.
Yeah.
But he apparently can squat 660 pounds or
he's
something
strong.
like that. Something ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's one of the strongest guys in the weight room. But
He could probably play multiple positions. Like, he
Yeah.
could play, receiver, back, stuff like that.
Yeah, he's
Guy
next
can
level.
move. Yeah.
He's like your Sanders or your MJ, right?
Yeah.
Go out and play at a pro level at whatever sport they choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Sometimes you
outliers.
just have the ability. It's just innate in you.
Yeah.
And then your work ethic is through the roof.
what takes you beyond.
The
Right.
one thing that I always have to think about, because it's the 1% of the 1%. That's how that's something that always reoccurs, like a feedback loop in my head, right? And so we were talking about in our last episode on, like, you actually don't need to do that much to be 1% of the 1%, because like the majority of the population is
doing
overwhelmingly
nothing.
lazy.
Yeah.
Like they're doing nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's that piece that I want to constantly challenge myself though a little bit more, right? And I just want to like trigger it. Like, I think in terms of what can I do that like is that small degree of separation? Like, what is that small degree of separation? And so I've been working on my body for a while now. Like I've been like, we're all about optimization going into our 40s, 50s, 60s, right? I want to think of that way. But there's this one piece that we learned about last night. That's what you do, PEMF, where you can incorporate this element of now me thinking, oh, this is the slight trigger. This is like the lever you can pull up to be a little bit better, because it's shortening. So like when you get injured when you're in your 30s, of course it's likely gonna hurt a lot more, and it's gonna take a little bit longer to heal. But the point is reducing those windows, right? Reducing those windows as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's where you really come into play as far as that body work. When, you have an athlete, maybe it's an aged athlete, maybe it's even a young athlete. You were talking about a baseball player the other night that tore his abductor or tore something, and you had to work on him, right? And you like, get back in here, man, I can work on you.
Yeah.
But it's in a professional sense, it's availability. I love that what were you saying. Like that is the most important thing. You got to be available.
Yeah.
And
100%.
so injury will occur. We've talked about that again in previous episodes. But like for a guy like me, now that has a guy like Jake, putting myself into that factor, man, I was working out and my knee was just off a little bit. And it's like, all right, where's that degree of separation where I can hone that in? And that's where this comes into play as far as that body work is like you should be getting consistent body work done to make sure you're mobile, you're elusive, you're all these things. Go into detail. I mean, get super, super nerdy with us, like real nerdy with
Let's
us.
go.
Like get prepared.
Let's go.
He loves it.
Get
I was
nerdy,
born for this.
about what you do. The absolute crazy shit you put on yourself to make myself this bionic human while I'm on the mat. It was
so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last story I'm going to tell. This guy worked on me. I get up the following day and I'm doing some kettlebell work and I like touch the kettlebell. And I had a little,
so
I was electrified a little bit.
Fully charged.
It wasn't anything crazy, but it was kind of funny and cool at the same time.
Little
But
carpet
like,
shock.
what little carpet shock? There's nothing a little bit of static electricity. You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with it.
Walk us through it, man. Like
Okay.
what you put on, how you set up, the gel, like all that stuff. Like walk through it all.
Cool. So the Electrons Plus device that I have is quite a bit like some of the more popular high power PEMF devices. It is technically operating PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field. But this device is actually allowing me to use my hands as electrodes, almost as if I'm a human TENS unit, right?
Yeah, that's what it
so
felt like.
I throw on a grounding belt, I plug into the ground in a wall so that I can more effectively pull through your body. Now, this device has a plate that sits underneath the client. So their whole body is electrified, and I'm able to tap in and work wherever I please. So a lot of times I'll start with a little vagus nerve warm-up, and we'll start to get a little twitching and popping. We might...
tweaking the head with yeah.
You're shaking and you're jumping a little bit. And healthy tissue fires. We should have the ability to fully contract or fully stretch a tissue. By getting the voltage to pull through the body, what we're able to do is really assess how everything is functioning. But then meanwhile, if we're going to take a deep dive all the way down into the cellular level, we're finding that by reestablishing the membrane potential of the cell,
Right.
that difference in charge from the inside to the outside of the cell, we're actually able to shuttle in nutrients, pull out waste, and create more ATP.
Yeah.
So if we can do all of those things...
Explain ATP.
Adenosine triphosphate. It's the building block of energy.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's how we move.
It's what we use for muscle contraction. You need it, right?
Produces mitochondria.
So you're saying that when you're doing these therapies, you're like kind of like restoring the body, right? That potential and that membrane potential is like that kind of charge that is like ready for something to take place, and you're kind of like resetting that almost.
Injuries, illness,
Yeah.
even trauma, whatever that trauma might be, the posture that you assume because you're just so stressed out. All of these things, lack of breathing, poor nutrition, lack of exercise, they all really matter as far as building a strong, resilient body. So we're going to lose that charge either as we age or as we experience a lot of things that put our body under stress.
Like we're kind of overburning it.
Exactly.
Right? Or wasting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone knows what they have to do to build a healthy body, but it's those atomic pieces all coming together that really puts someone on the path, the next level. You know, even the electrolyte water.
Yeah.
Those are super essential for getting contractions.
Oh my God. I consume a lot of electrolytes. I love it.
Yeah.
I get energy from it, man. Like I'll skip coffee and just do electrolytes and I feel great.
Yeah.
Dude, tell us, talk through what like you did on Matt's knee.
Yeah, so
like,
let's zoom back out, right?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit on the cells. That's great. It's just simply happening. Whether I'm touching you or not, it's simply happening for your body, which is great. But then we have this added benefit of my hands acting like the electrodes of a TENS unit. So I'm able to feel how that muscle, how that tissue and fascia is responding to the pulses that are moving through your body.
Yeah.
So it almost acts like a dyno tune in a sense. We're trying to find that perfect idle for a really high performance engine, but we're testing each and every little muscle and moving through them and seeing how they respond and how they feel.
Yeah.
I like to talk about the depolarization of muscle a lot of times, because there's a certain communication and sensation that's going on the table, right? When I'm on top of like an infraspinatus, or even feeling the subscapularis underneath the shoulder blade, a lot of times, especially people who are kind of rolled forward, working on desks or driving a lot, they're gonna exclaim and say, "Oh man, that really hurts.
Yeah.
It feels like you're sticking your finger in a bruise. I didn't even know that thing hurt." And I say, well, it wasn't causing you pain, but it was beginning to cause you dysfunction.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of loosen up that whole shoulder, try to find what else is tight around it.
Yeah.
But we're using our manual therapy techniques to break through the fascia, loosen it back up, and then restore that voltage and get a full contraction on the muscle.
How long has this been around? Sorry to kind of cut that, but like, how long has this been
worries.
like a therapy that has been a certification or whatever, right?
Electrons
It's
Plus.
new to me for sure.
Yeah, Electrons Plus, that hand-guided PEMF, it's, I think, around 11 years now.
Okay.
There have been 3 generations of the device.
Yeah.
And honestly, the first one was not pretty.
Yeah.
It was not a great
blasting people.
experience. Yeah. I think it felt more like electric shock therapy than this like really smooth tension.
People were getting lobotomized and shit.
Exactly.
But,
So rounds 2 and rounds 3, they were good. But
It's so cool,
PEMF's
man.
been studied for
Yeah.
50, 60 years.
Because
know,
like
that
you
was-
said, it's basically like tens plus the massage. Dude, the most important part is the intuitive nature of the practitioner doing it, right? So it's like,
1000%.
you know, in the past, it's like you had to get a massage for an hour, then you had to get tens units thrown on you, and like then do some scraping. It's like you're doing all of that at one time,
Correct.
in one thing. It's freaking groundbreaking. It's sick. Like,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a really weird question though. I don't know why I'm like thinking about it.
go.
But have you ever worked on a cadaver?
No.
Oh, because wonder when muscles, like the muscles, people lose breath and energy, right? Think about this in like the deepest kind.
You're talking about like if you would
But
stimulate
muscles
the
still
muscle.
have energy, and if you can still use that, and
Maybe if they're fresh dead, like within like a few minutes, like you still have some
that's
potential
kinda what
energy
I mean,
stored
is
up.
like-
That's not a cadaver though. That's
you
a
might
dead
still have
person.
some potential energy stored up, but
that's a dead.
that's a really good question. And
Is that a good question?
That's
I
a
don't know.
pretty,
I thought it
that's a
was
pretty
creepy.
dark question.
So
things
rigor
took a turn
mortis,
there.
You know, when the body stiffens up,
Yeah.
that's a calcium
yeah.
dump,
Yeah.
right? So your body everything releases and calcium gets dumped in the muscle and it stiffens, right? Because it's contractile.
So you aren't probably.
I'm
getting
willing
any
to say,
movement or
I'm willing to
contraction
say
out of
probably
muscles.
no, because of the flush that happens. You know, it's a full body flush when someone passes away, right?
Yeah.
So,
probably
I'm willing to bet probably not. But yeah, like you were saying,
Curious and concerned
maybe
as to where you're at with that question. But
Well,
keep them coming, right?
yeah, pretty. I don't know. It's just pretty interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what I loved about it specifically was like the charge of the human body, how much energy it actually physically can emit.
oh, it's
Like
incredible.
you become really in tune when you're going that. Like when you were working on my knee, and then you were like even on my temples, right? Like it was kind of like this weird out of body experience, maybe a little bit, where I was like, wow, like there's I literally don't have control. Like
Everything's moving, but I'm not doing anything.
but I'm not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
It's like I think Dave Asprey does something weird like that, where like that's how he physically works out, you know, where he activates muscle groups without like going to the gym.
That
You ever
sounds
heard him talk about that?
cool. No.
Oh man, it's the weirdest
Sounds
thing.
fun.
So he like doesn't go to the gym. He actually I think it's like a vibration mat and then other things, but I think he uses
Okay.
PEMF. We'll have to
Okay.
look into it a little bit more. Don't quote me on this, but I thought it was some level of PEMF where he activates his muscle groups without like using weights, where it's giving like the resistance of a weight. You know,
Oh, you know what this almost sounds like? This sounds like EMS training.
EMS
so, like,
is probably it.
So there's this guy here in Tampa, Joe. He runs a business called Tumo Studios. They suit you up They strap you into the computer.
I've seen that.
It's like a tens unit workout basically.
It's like
but it's
just
a high
hitting
level.
all your
We're talking
muscles.
$30,000, tens unit. That's
Yeah.
got a dial for every muscle.
That's 100% what it is. Now,
Yeah.
like
It's a vest and stuff that he put on. Is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
you're in long johns.
Yeah.
And then
Your whole
they've
body's
got
covered
these
with, like,
vests
tens. It's
with
real.
electrodes.
Yeah.
And they water down the vest so that you can conduct.
Get out of there.
Wow.
And then
So-
they strap you into the computer.
Bam. You get blown up.
When he says that's all he does.
Yeah.
But like, how are you increasing your VO2 max, right?
Right. Yeah,
Like-
you need to be doing something outside of that. Or
You gotta be moving.
you gotta be moving.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's not a bad supplement for someone who wants to be a high level athlete, but
Yeah.
if you're getting older and you're still going on walks and you're just trying to maintain your muscle mass and keep the
stimulus.
load off your spine or keep the load off your knee.
It's the American
It's
way,
an
bro.
option.
How do we get results with
option.
doing
For
less
people
work?
with cheddar.
Yeah.
So-
it's the American way. How do we spend a lot of money to do less?
I'm gonna
Save
hate
some
on Dave
time,
Asprey
man.
a little bit.
30
though.
minutes and
It's
you're
not like he has the best
toast.
body in the world. I'm like, freaking dude, like you're a longevity guy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would presume, like the guy we're talking about, Mike. I'm like, dude, I want that body in my friggin' still going in my 60s, right?
Right.
Whereas he's not even in his 60s. What am I talking about? Isn't he like 49 or something like that? He's not even that
I
old.
don't know.
But I think of that. Some of these guys talking about longevity, going back to the point of like muscle, is like I don't want to take the roundabout way to like I kind of like I'm a gym rat at the end of the day.
Me
Like
too,
dude,
I
I
love
like
it.
lifting weights,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Picking them up and putting them down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there's
It's
a
kinda-
mental
and then going to guys
part of
like you
that.
for the bodywork
muscle,
piece.
muscle mass and range of motion, those two things,
Huge.
if you can pair them together, I think that's the fountain of youth, man.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Hips. So this is one thing that I've been working on for probably I've been super intentional the past year.
Right.
Because I was never, I was at 90 degrees, like people tell me
Right.
90 degrees. So I would go down, in a squat, 90, pop back up. And then now it's like, no, ass to grass,
Get out.
because you get way wider range of motion. So
Yeah.
I keep usually my hips. But it took 6-7 months for me to get real long range of motion in my squat.
Yeah.
And really just getting deep ass to grass. But, there's a lot of mobility that I had to do, duck walks,
Sure.
frog stretches, like all these things to really open up those hips. Maybe what are 2 or 3 helpful hips to get that range of motion? Obviously your therapy helps, but what are some other added things?
So I want you to visualize what you do with Olympic weightlifting as reverse gear. Like you're throwing the car in reverse, right?
Uh-huh.
You're taking a bar, you're throwing it up and then back in a lot of cases when you're doing something Olympic style, right?
Yeah.
That is going to create a different style of torque on both the ankles and the hips.
Okay.
Now, when we look at these high level athletes, when they move forward, their hip pattern and the way that they push off the ground is actually the inverse of what you see in an Olympic lift. Not to say that Olympic lifting is bad, but Olympic lifting trains an ability to do one thing.
you're right.
So if you're looking for the ability to open your hips better, a lot of times you may need to get your butt back down on the ground and train your ability to move forward. So we're talking crawling,
Yeah.
literally crawling like a baby. And then when you've proven yourself and everything's synchronized really nicely, the shoulders, hips, ankles are all moving well from one side to the other, then you might get those knees up off the ground and turn it into a bear crawl or push a tank forward. Torque tank, absolute favorite tool if you haven't used one of those.
Yeah, I love them.
Absolutely love it. That magnetic flywheel in there
Yeah.
it's a killer, dude. It's my secret weapon. But yeah, I would say crawling, bear crawling, pushing a tank, and then just working the synchronization of how the body moves forward.
Huge.
Like
They can
basics,
complement
man.
one another,
Getting
and
back.
honestly, it'll make you a more durable, probably more powerful Olympic lifter too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about when you were doing the therapy, and you mentioned it to me. I already forgot because I was just so like zoned out with what you were when you were doing it, and it was a little uncomfortable.
It takes your words from you, yeah.
Yeah, but explain like when you would hit certain areas, and my whole freaking leg was twitching, my whole body, but
Yeah.
then other areas nothing was happening, and it was like more painful.
Yeah.
That's because I had more fascial kind of like adhesions. Is that
Exactly.
exactly
Yep.
what it is? Okay.
So we have to talk about tissue quality, right?
Right. Yeah, and you hit that spot on my knee that felt like a freaking tube steak, bro. It was
Yeah.
just gross.
To make it make sense, like as we run a tool or fingertips across the fascia, we should be able to feel basically a steak, like a nice filet mignon or a sirloin.
Striations.
The consistency of that tissue should be pretty smooth.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we'll end up feeling something more like a ground beef, like a package of ground beef.
Yeah.
You'll feel that separation every so often as you strum your finger along it. You take a tool and you just feel the gravel, you feel the crunch. So that's poorly healed tissue, whether it's the way you're executing an exercise or your healing modalities. There's a lot that can go into the way tissue quality develops.
Right.
You know, maybe it's even your ability to access your VO2 max. How is your diaphragmatic breath? Those things all matter. To return to kind of the sensation that you were feeling, right? That's the depolarized topic that I'll touch on a lot. So we've got this spectrum, right? We should be able to fully contract and fully stretch a muscle. But if your body doesn't have the ability to do that for one reason or another, you're going to feel pain when you're having that voltage pulled through you.
Gotcha.
Because it's the dyno tune. We're pulling that voltage and asking the muscle to contract,
but it can't.
10, 15, 20, 75 times per second.
Yeah.
You know, with someone who's maybe a little less trained or has a little less healthy battery system, we might have to take that frequency up really high to get something firing. But when you feel the pain, pins and needles, deep bruise, even knives, sometimes people say it feels like I'm stabbing knives into them. Those are all signs that the tissue's not being used properly and it's not healed properly.
Yeah, gotcha.
So we felt that on the VMO quite a bit. And as we worked through it, the pain started to kind of drop off a little bit, and then we laid your leg back down, tested it out again, and it was a much better contraction.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's kind of the sign that we're taking depolarized, sorting out the consistency of the tissue, and then making it work well again.
Yeah.
Giving it the capacity back that it needs to do its job.
That's cool stuff. And you said you have somebody who works on you, so you're obviously getting this done too.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are like 200 Electrons Plus providers out there today, and I would say probably a quarter of them are getting work by other Electrons Plus providers.
Yeah.
Half of us don't even know what consistent treatment with the Electrons Plus feels like. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like when I went freaking month without getting adjusted, dude. I was like, I'm itching for it, you know?
I mean, I honestly don't know how people do it. Like,
Yeah.
Consistent body work, getting my spine. I mean, I went 3 weeks without going to you. I've been going consistently to a chiropractor for the past 3 months, or 2 years, sorry.
Like we talk about all the time, most people are mashed potatoes. They don't know what's, like, it even feels like to be healthy. So, like, they're not doing anything that, like, it requires.
It's a slow boil.
Yeah.
It's a really slow boil until you realize this water's boiling.
Yeah.
We've been going through for probably the past, 5-6 months now, a group of guys on Thursdays. And I think there's like, just a spiritual component to the side of your body and body work. How do you interlace those is a good question. Like how do you feel like there's a spiritual component that like maybe you're even releasing on somebody as you're working on their body? It's a little bit deep. I guess I'm going really like deep and like different directions here.
Sometimes, man.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
But there's that, that I felt, there is that element of like that, obviously spiritual connection that the body gives life. Like you're giving life to people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense and if you can answer it, but go ahead.
For a while now, I've been a big believer that my purpose here on this planet is to help people fully express and execute their passion and gifts. But I'm well aware from a young age that if you're in pain or you have a lack of function, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to help other people.
I mean, like, that's why I need to come see you. Because, right, like, if I'm hurting, dude, how am I going to help others, right? Yeah. And, like, same with you and you getting treated by other practitioners. So there's only 200 certified in this Electrons Plus. The person, it's all over the country.
Do you say
200 on the planet.
200 on the planet?
200. Yeah.
Dang.
So it's not super popular.
Not many people are getting treated.
It's kind of a grassroots campaign right now.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
They didn't want to scale it too quick and have a bunch of units sitting around collecting dust because the practitioners were either, you know, going for a cash grab and just trying to make a boatload of cash, or that maybe they didn't fully understand it, right?
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, there's a certain amount of suffering that goes into building the ability to use the device. It's a lot of power coming into the hands. It's hard on the hands. And now that I'm almost 2 years in, my hands, wrists, everything feels great. I'm super, super connected from a neurological standpoint, but it was really hard on the hands.
You mean like the physical, like therapy aspect of it?
No, the voltage running through the fingers.
Wow.
When you want to dial in enough to get this little myotome.
Yeah,
firing.
I was wondering what you were feeling when you were doing it, and I was feeling the shocks.
I'll let you feel it. I'll let you feel it through your hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, my first couple months, I was working with 2 full hands on someone, because as we're pulling this voltage through someone, it's surface area dependent.
That's
so
right.
I can go down to a
lot in one
fingertip on
finger.
someone,
Yeah.
or I can do 2 full hands around a joint.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's the same amount of Gauss being pulled through that connection.
Yeah. I felt more intensely when you were single finger than when you were like wide hand. Like I could feel like more of a shock kind of feeling. Yeah. Wow. Damn. Let's do this, man, just because we've gotten a little nerdy with it, which is I love. Like, we can all talk this way. But for someone who has no idea what we're even talking about, how would you explain this to someone? Hey, this is what I do. I do blank.
So, to keep it as surface level as possible, most people have experienced a TENS unit. It's a combination of a TENS unit, a massage, and almost a little bit of a workout component, because we're asking these muscles to fire, but then as we move those hands, we're asking them to fire in system. It's not just one muscle that we're focusing on. As we get things all moving together, I'm moving pretty quick to get an entire system of muscles firing together the way they're supposed to. A lot of your trainers or specialists will talk about slings. You know, there's a network of muscles that work within this fascial network, and if we can get them all moving together, that's where the magic is. Yeah. So I don't think I simplified it enough there.
I think
you did. I mean, I think, I think also, like, what would you say, right? Like, if I'm creating a marketing thing for my chiropractic, it's like I'm putting like back pain, neck pain, headaches, right? Yeah. Like, what are the things? What would you say is it's people most often see you for, right? What are they calling your phone about? I got this, I need help, or is it just so broad that
It's so broad, man. I've helped so many people. It's a great adjunct for any kind of surgery, for instance.
Okay, post-surgical rehab
huge
stuff.
It's huge for relieving the pain associated with being cut open. It's great for anxiety and depression, and these are all like stamped by the FDA.
Cool.
This has shown to help with these things. Non-union joint fractures, something that's taken 6 months or longer to heal.
Dude, that's what my shoulder was, right?
Was it really?
So I had that grade 5 separation, had surgery, then I freaking broke it. Where they did surgery in my clavicle, I fractured it. Okay. It would not heal. It was like 6 months later, it was starting to, like, my body was resorbing the bone. Yeah. And so now that's why I got a freaking plate and screws in there, you know? But I'm gonna need you to dig in this thing.
Yeah, man, let's play with it. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's play with it. I hope so.
It's a project, and it's an experiment.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on in there.
Yeah.
Because the tissue is, you know, it's either helping or not, and we're gonna find out real quick if it is.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee it's not.
A couple other things: osteoporosis, bone mineral density. That's a good one. It's been shown to increase bone mineral density and help prevent sarcopenia, or loss of muscle related with aging.
What's the protocol on that? Like, how is that? Like, is somebody going to come to you and say, "Hey, I have this. How do you help me with it?" Or that's like a kind of like a side effect that happens. It's like, oh, my bone density is getting better after doing these. Is that kind of what you're meaning?
Yeah, I mean, people aren't necessarily finding me because they have osteoporosis.
Yeah, that'd be a little cut out there. Yeah.
But as these issues come up with clients who are referred by friends because of pain, it's almost always pain, right?
Yeah, got it.
Pain is what gets people in the door, and then we can show them that there's a better way to combine some of the therapies that they're working on, and that helps make, say, their chiropractic adjustments more effective, or their workouts more effective. Because I can't train every single one of my clients and work on their bodies. But a lot of times I'll send clients back out to their trainers with a couple little cues in mind on, you know, executing the squat or executing the thing that gives them a lot of trouble. And you combine the reactivation of all of these knee stabilizers with a little tip on the execution, and people are blowing through their workouts.
Yeah, game changer.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nice, man.
We loved having you on this show, bro. We would love to have you back and learn
Thank
more
you,
about
fellas.
this. Obviously, let's have you kind of like plug yourself and just tell everyone where they can find you online, because I know you got social media and stuff like that. So cool. Obviously you're local here in Tampa, but yeah, man, go ahead and share a little bit about yourself there.
So my Instagram is upleveled movement. Upleveled is past tense. You could just look for me as Jake Nadermann, Nadermann. Same thing on Facebook, Jake Nadermann Coaching and Training. The company that I started this last year is called Upleveled Movement Performance and Recovery.
Cool.
So you can
What's
look
the
up
URL
any
for
of
that?
those.
Is that uplevelmovement.com?
I believe so, yeah. All
Okay.
one word, upleveledmovement.com.
Nice.
Working on getting that website dialed in a little bit. I've been busy on the front lines, but we're going to get the website dialed in 2024.
Sweet.
Gotta
Awesome,
check out Jake. If you're in Tampa Bay, you gotta check out
gotta
Jake.
experience
Awesome.
it, man. It's
Yeah,
it's next level.
Next level.
Next level.
It's good stuff.
I ask this question of every guest that comes on the show because it's so important to us. This is our mission. We're talking living full fueled, optimizing your life. We have 6 pillars that we want to live by: fuel, movement, sleep, mind, work, and spirit. And if you have all those together, you're going to be obviously performing at a high level. So tell us, man, what does it mean to you to live full fueled?
Living full field is all about loving what you're doing and being able to share your gifts with the world.
Heat.
Oh!
Yeah, man. This
Mic
guy's-
drop.
I can tell this guy's so passionate about what he does.
Yeah.
Man, we loved having you on here, brother.
Thank you,
Dude,
fellas.
thank you
This was
so
an
much,
absolute
man.
Appreciate
pleasure.
you having me. That was a
Live
blast.
full fuel.
Live
Live
beyond
beyond limits,
limits.
baby.